The love all night long. Kevin Love showing up and showing out, dropping 40 points, 34 in the first quarter alone. That's the second highest scoring quarter in NBA history. Stephen A., with that, I ask you, can Kevin Love make the Cavs truly a big three?
You know what? I don't think so. Listen, this is no knock against Kevin Love whatsoever. His basketball IQ is off the charts. He's incredibly skilled. He's a big-time player. He's averaging 21 and 10 this season. He's clearly being casted correctly, used correctly by a young, great coach in Tyronn Lue. This is not a knock on Love whatsoever. I've just always viewed Love as a better 1 or 2 option, pretty much primarily a 2 option, as opposed to a 3. I know he can shoot those threes, as evidenced last night when he hit 8 of them in the first quarter. LeBron James had 6 of his 13 assists by feeding Love all on threes. It would have been nice to see LeBron James keep giving it to him so he could have dropped 50, but that's a subject for another day. At the end of the day, Love is a big-time player, somebody that I think has been underappreciated by myself included at times, as well as everybody else. He's a big-time player, but I do think being that third wheel is very, very difficult for him. And even though Tyronn Lue gets him the first touch of every game, make sure he has him more assertive and active because he's getting him the ball on the blocks and he's doing some things. I think against some of the better teams in the league who actually know how to get out on the perimeter and defend perimeter shots, we're not going to see something like this from him. And as a result, even though I don't think it would be as bad offensively, Max, as it was in the finals where he was relatively impotent offensively, but he did make noise defensively and with rebounding in terms of his point production against some of the elite teams that can get out there and defend the perimeter. I think in order for Love to be that big-time dude that we saw in Minnesota, that we're watching averaging 21 and 10 now, I think he'd have to be the secondary offensive option, which obviously he would not be with LeBron and Kyrie there. That's my only trepidation, but it's no knock against him whatsoever because I know the brother can play ball. It's just that when you're that gifted, you're usually not the third option.
The answer is yes, he can be one of a big three by the definition of big three, because a lot of people didn't think Chris Bosh was a big three with LeBron and Wade. And Bosh has never been as good a player as LeBron or Wade have been. I mean, he's just not as good. But he was good enough to be considered one of a big three. And a lot of casual fans were fooled by Bosh because they would say, oh, 8 points, 10 rebounds, or something like 7 rebounds. That's they're not getting their money's worth. But Bosh was playing defense. He was doing every single thing the coach asked him to do, stretching it out when they needed to, all those kind of things. He was doing everything that the coach wanted him to do. And so, in fact, he was a huge part of their success, which is why Spoelstra and Riley would say, actually, Bosh is our most indispensable player. And at the time, I was having arguments on the radio and on Sports Nation with people. People were blowing me up on Twitter when I would say Bosh is better than Kevin Love because Kevin Love was putting up 25 and 12. Oh, Bosh is 8 points and 7 rebounds last night. You see that? Yeah, it's the way the coach is using him. So, yes, it's not a question of, are they a big three? It's a question of how is Lue going to use Kevin Love? When he's the primary scoring option, he will appear to be a top 5 player to some misguided folks who thought he was. He was never a top 5 player. But he's an all-star caliber player who can shoot the three well for his position, though not as well as he once did because the rest of the league has caught up at that position more, who can post, who can pass the ball, who has a high basketball IQ, as you said, never going to be a good defender, but he knows what he's doing. He can absolutely be part of a big three. And the way they've used him, he's kind of overkill for what the Cavs need, at least offensively for him. He can do everything they need him to do offensively and more. The question as to whether people will catch on that he's part of a big three is if they ask him to do more, because he's capable of doing it. But on a team with LeBron and Kyrie, you don't always need him to do it. This is the issue with basketball. There's only one ball. So statistics of individual players, the kind of counting numbers, points, rebounds, assists, don't always tell you the full story and can mislead fans. Kevin Love is perfectly capable of being one of a big three in Cleveland.
He's capable of it, but again, because of his talents and what it commands, a third option leaves me cause to pause in that regard. And I think his record thus far in Cleveland proves as much in terms of his level of production offensively. Having said all of that, I'd also like to add, I'm not going to get beside myself because there are 30 teams in the NBA, Max Kellerman. Do you know where the Portland Trail Blazers rank defensively? That would be 30, dead last. And so when I look at it from that perspective, again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Love. He can play the game of basketball, high basketball IQ. He's certainly a big boy that could shoot. I can't stand the fact that he seems to have lost so much weight because when he was in Minnesota, talk about a walking double-double and somebody that just banged. But there's no reason to make that argument now because he's averaging 20 and 10, so he's still finding a way to get things done. I just think that watching Cleveland, as much as I've watched Cleveland, seeing how much LeBron and Kyrie are usually the ones who get it going. When I'm looking at Love going up against elite talent, particularly individuals with size who can get out on the perimeter, what are you going to do then? That's the question mark in terms of a big three. But I'm not trying to knock him in any way because I know the brother can play.
And not in terms of the way their games are, but in terms of their value. Kevin Love is a poor man's Carmelo Anthony in the sense that he is an offensive weapon. If he is your primary scoring option, you're a 500 team. But a 500 team in the West, even when you don't have a great cast around him. This is a damn good player. If it's your secondary scoring option, if he's your second scoring option, I don't think you're going to win a championship. If he's your tertiary, your third option on offense, you're a championship team. But if that's the case, it will not look like he's a very good player. What do you care more about? The results on the court, winning, or the kind of statistical profile and the kind of stuff that makes fans acknowledge how much of a contribution you're making? Again, it's overkill to have him in that position. He's much more than just a quote-unquote stretch four, but his talent enables the Cavs to do things if they want. And I don't think there's a way around considering him a big three. Look, if Carmelo Anthony joins some big, and you love his offense, obviously, Stephen A., his ability to score the ball, but if he joined some team and was not the primary scoring option and they won a title, he might wind up with 17 points a game, something like that. Would that mean he's not part of a big three? Is that just based on, if he is part of that big three, is that just based on his reputation at the time he got traded to that team? The question is not what's the statistical profile. The question is what is the player's actual value and what are they capable of doing? So the answer in Kevin Love is yes. By the standards of Big Three, you're an all-star caliber player playing with two other guys like that or better. The answer is yes on Kevin Love.
Well, I look at Kevin Love. I have a problem with the comparison to Carmelo Anthony because Kevin Love can't put the ball on the floor like that.
No, right. Carmelo's better. Poor man's. He's a poor man. Not even in terms of their game.
I got it.
Look, if Carmelo Anthony's your primary scoring option, forget about a championship. But if he's a weapon you use, sure, you could win a championship. Same thing with Kevin Love.
All right, guys. So Kevin Love's still on the show on Thanksgiving Eve, but it's Thanksgiving Day, so we need to get back to football. Who's going to steal the show today? When we come back, the whole Cowboy squad, we all know, they've been eating. They won 9 straight and face a tough challenge today against the Redskins, but before they